I went from this to this in just 1 year. Here's how I paint now. And this wasn't talent. See, I spent years trying to learn art and I made absolutely zero progress. It wasn't until I understood these three keys that I started to improve faster than I ever thought possible. I'm Marcus, and learning how to learn has been one of the most valuable lessons of my life. In this video, we're going to cover the three keys that you can use to become good at anything. Zero talent required. So what are these three keys? Well, there's types of knowledge, identity and beliefs, and strategy for effective learning. Let's start with types of knowledge. So imagine you want to learn how to ride a bike. So you go and you watch loads of tutorials on how a bike works, how to balance on it, how to sit on the seat, all of this stuff. But then when you go and actually sit on a bike and try to ride it, you find you fall flat on your face basically immediately. This is the first type of knowledge, and it's called propositional knowledge, where you know a bunch of facts and information about something. Now think about somebody who has ridden a bike many times. They've never watched a tutorial, but they have actually got on a bike and tried to ride it. And through doing this, they've learned how to balance and actually ride properly. This is called procedural knowledge, which is knowing how to perform a task. This is the difference, knowing about something versus knowing how to actually do it. You can watch tutorials and guides all you like, but the real growth comes from actual hands-on learning. Now, gathering information does have its place, but it is just a stepping stone. Think of information like a map. It gives you the lay of the land and lets you plot a path to kind of go through that territory. But unless you actually get up and walk, you're never going to go from A to B. It's only when you take that information and apply it through action that you become better. In short, information only becomes valuable when you transform it into skill through action. So that's the first piece. If you want to get better at something, you have to actually do it. That makes sense. But what about the action part? Because I've seen loads of people try to learn art or try to learn anything and barely make any progress, even if they try it for years. Yet some other people will pick up a skill very quickly. Why? Well, this takes us to our next portion, identity and beliefs. If you don't understand this, you're going to improve so slowly, and not only that, the process will be absolutely miserable for you. And it's so simple, but the effect this has is crazy. So let's say you and a friend are trying to learn some simple math. So you sit down, try a problem, and get it wrong pretty much immediately. Now, when this happens, your friend throws their arms back and says, I'll never be good at this. I can't do it. It's too difficult. But you stop and you think, where did I go wrong? Now, these two reactions aren't random. They're two completely different ways of thinking about learning. The first way of thinking is called a fixed mindset. This is when you believe that no matter how much you try, no matter how much effort you put into something, you are never going to improve. How depressing does that sound? And this is the mindset people have when they believe it's all talent. The next mindset is called a growth mindset. And this is when you understand that you can improve and get better through practice and correcting your mistakes. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. See, this doesn't just affect the way you think about something, it literally affects the way your brain responds when you make a mistake. With a fixed mindset, your brain locks into your emotional response. It focuses on the bad feeling of getting it wrong and you get sucked into that. But with a growth mindset, your brain will actually put more resources into analyzing the problem and understanding why it went wrong. And this shift makes all the difference. So to learn effectively, to get the most bang for our buck, we need to develop a growth mindset. But how do you do that? Well, you need to change how you view problems and mistakes. Instead of seeing them as negative, you need to realize and understand that these are essential steps in the learning process. You notice a mistake, you fix it, and then you improve. So rather than trying to avoid mistakes, you need to actively seek them out. Now that's all well and good, but it doesn't mean that this is easy. See, when you're new to learning, going from a fixed to a growth mindset can be a very frustrating process. And this is because you need to start to shift your identity away from somebody who gets things right towards somebody who learns and improves from making mistakes. The difference between somebody who is skilled and somebody who is not is that the skilled person has made so many more mistakes and corrected them along the way. The trick to making this shift is actually to celebrate your effort over your results. Now, this sounds cheesy and kind of like woo-woo, but it actually genuinely works. When you put effort in, you want to actively stop and celebrate that. Don't be thinking, oh, I made a mistake, I'm bad at this, I suck, I can't learn this. Realize that that mistake is actually a positive because you showed up and you put in the work to find that mistake in the first place. Every step forward, no matter how small, is progress. Now, if you find yourself upset, that's completely normal. This shift is not going to happen overnight. What you need to do in this situation is take a break, go away, reset, take a moment, celebrate the fact that you tried, then come back with fresh eyes and look for the problems, identify them, and correct them. Over time, as you begin to embody this mindset, your emotional reactions will shift. Now, this doesn't mean you're never going to feel negative emotion, but what it does mean is that you kind of get a different response from it. You will have times where it just kind of sucks, but it will actually shift most of the time towards being like, oh, great, I found a mistake. Now I can go and improve this. Again, don't expect this shift to happen quickly. Be kind to yourself. This takes a bit of time, and just know that in the beginning, that potential emotional difficulty that you feel will settle as you continue to practice and improve. One final point to make here is that I highly recommend you take some time, sit and think about your life and where in your life you have a growth versus a fixed mindset, because you can have a growth in one area and a fixed in another, and it is absolutely crazy the difference this can make. For example, I've been chronically disorganized my entire life. I always had this feeling like there was something I was kind of missing, something I'd kind of forgot, and sometimes I wouldn't even know if I'd made plans for that weekend or not. Then, at the start of this month, I realized that I'd been carrying this belief that I would just always be a disorganized person. And when I clocked this, I decided to change it. In just 2 hours, I created a simple visual tracking system that has everything I need to see all in one place. And I've never been this organized or felt this on top of things in my entire life. And my productivity has skyrocketed as well. Now, I could have solved this years ago, but I didn't. Why? Because I didn't think I could. So I spent 30 years being disorganized and then solved it in 2 hours. This is what that looks like visually. Fixed versus growth mindset. Don't underestimate this. If you want to know more about this topic, I highly recommend checking out Carol Dweck. She's the one who discovered this, and she's got some fantastic talks here on YouTube. All right, so we know that in order to learn, we need to actually do it and also believe we can do it. But that's not all you need, because the way that you notice and correct mistakes has a massive impact on your ability to learn quickly. So let's talk about learning strategies. So imagine we've got 3 people. We've got Bob, Frodo, and Daisy, and they all want to learn to draw a simple light bulb. Bob tries to draw the light bulb once and gets it wrong. Then he starts drawing a whole bunch of other random stuff. There's not really a logic or thinking behind it. He draws a bunch of random shit. Then eventually he tries to draw the light bulb again, and it's basically the same as it was the first time. Now, Frodo has practiced a few things before, so he takes a bit of a different approach. He draws the first light bulb, realizes it's not right, so he practices drawing that light bulb over and over, repeating it again and again. Repetition is the mother of all skill, as they say. This approach is much better, and when he tries to draw the light bulb again, it's improved. He's making progress. Way to go, Frodo. Now let's talk about Daisy. Now Daisy's awesome. She's not only practiced things before, but she's also studied how to practice effectively. She draws the light bulb once, then she stops and asks, where did I go wrong? She then notices that she's having a really difficult time drawing circles. So she goes and watches a YouTube tutorial on how to draw circles and practices that repeatedly. They're pretty wonky at first, but she keeps trying, and soon her circles go from wonky to pretty good. Then, once she's got the circles down, she tries drawing the light bulb again and gets it right. So why did Daisy improve the most? Well, everyone, even Bob, did one thing right. They tried to draw the light bulb. Frodo did better by drawing the light bulb more than once, but Daisy did the best because she did several things differently. She tried it, asked what was wrong, found the problem, practiced that problem on its own, and then put it back into the overall drawing. This is how you improve fast. It's about being very deliberate and intentional about the way you practice. Think about playing sports in school. I personally played rugby, and during practice, we didn't spend most of our time playing full games. Actually, we probably did that the least. The rest of the time, we were focused on practicing individual skills, things like passing, tackling, running plays. The coaches took rugby, broke it down into individual skills, and got us to practice them on their own. This way, you get a lot more reps than you would just by playing the game. Then, when you play your next game, you can take those skills and put them back into the overall whole. So, to improve quickly, you need to do the thing. Start by attempting the whole task. Draw the portrait, paint the picture, whatever it may be. This serves as your starting point. Next, you need to break it down. Ask yourself what went wrong here and pull out the biggest mistakes that you're struggling with. From here, you want to practice and improve. Work on those mistakes on their own. Think like sports drills. Build skills in a targeted way before returning back to the full task. This speeds up your learning dramatically. Now, one thing I want to point out here is that the break it down stage can be particularly tough sometimes because, especially when you're new, it can be hard to pinpoint exactly what's going wrong. You're probably just going to have more of a general feeling that something's off, but you can't really laser focus in on what it is. This is where mentors can be incredibly valuable. They've walked this path before, they've done all the mistakes, so they can look at your work from a different perspective and see where you're going wrong, show you how to improve it, and give you exercises to practice. This, on top of the system we just covered, will speed you up so much and also remove a lot of the frustration and guesswork. Now, if you're serious about leveling up your skills, I'm actually giving away 3 one-on-one coaching calls where I look at your work, review it, and we create a plan to help you practice and improve effectively. So if you're not interested in structured feedback or putting the work in, that's fine. Art and creating it is a beautiful and life-enriching process at any level, but these spots are meant for people who are ready to take their skills to the next level. Now, I can only do 3 of these with my current schedule, but I'd like to help in any way I can. So please apply below if you are interested. The link is in the description. Besides me, there is loads of incredible mentors out there. There's so many insanely good people out there today. So you can go and talk to one of them, or you can find places to post your work online for free. If you're confused as to where to start, try Reddit. Now, this is absolutely possible without a mentor. The vast majority of the time that I have been learning art, it has been me on my own watching tutorials, but it is doing it on hard mode. Whenever I have had a mentor in those short periods, I've improved like 4 or 5 times as fast. So please take my advice and at minimum, just post your work online somewhere so that you can get feedback. I didn't do this and it slowed me down so much. If you don't do that and you can't spot your mistakes, what you want to do is focus on the fundamentals. 99% of the time, your issue will lie in the fundamentals. People who are good are not good because of flashy techniques. They're good because they understand the fundamentals deeply. All right, So those are all the parts. How do we put this all together? One of the best ways is to work on a long-term project. Projects are great because they give you structure and motivation, and you're left with something tangible at the end. Let's say that you want to draw comics. So instead of practicing the individual skills, you decide to draw one short comic strip every week. After finishing each one, you want to ask what worked, what didn't, and break it down into things to practice over the week. Then you practice these things on their own, and then when the next week rolls round, you come and you apply what you've learned into your next comic strip. This way, you're not just developing skills, you're actively building something at the same time. You're learning how all the pieces fit together while building a body of work. For example, I'm doing this right now with a challenge I call Do It Badly, where I create 50 paintings in 50 weeks. Each week I show up, I do my painting, then I look at what went wrong, practice those during the week, and then in the next painting I apply those new skills. This is painting number 3, by the way. Working on projects like this is so much more enjoyable than just developing skills on their own. And by the end, you've actually created something that you can share with others. To take the comic example, you could post it online, create a zine, make it into a short book. The world's your oyster. The point is, you made something. And that's the real beauty of this approach. Not only are you getting better, you're creating something meaningful along the way. Because here's the thing, getting really skilled isn't the end goal. Skills are just a tool you use to bring your creations to life and share them with the world. For me, the focus should always be on what you can create and contribute. I think the world could use a little bit more of that. Good luck.